Toni Girones, I would like to read, first of all, a brief presentation, a brief curriculum of his career. He is a PhD architect by the Polytechnic University of Catalonia in 2016 with the doctoral thesis, Spontaneous Architectures, Reflections on Constants in Architectures, the Peninsula of Cap de Creus, a Topography in Time. An architect by the School of Architecture of Vallés in 1992, where he is a professor of projects until 2005. Since then until today has been responsible for the architecture studies as well as a coordinator and professor of first and third circle of the degree at the School of Architecture of Reus. During the last 25 years, he has also collaborated with different nationals and internationals universities, among others, the UNAV of Navarra, ETH of Zurich, Catholic University of Chile, and University of Mérida in Yucatán, Mexico. Since 1993, his professional career has been recognized with numerous awards, publications, and exhibitions, including the Premi Joves Arquitectes of Catalonia in 1996, several FAD awards, 3 Ibero-American Biennales, the Spanish Biennales, the Domus International Award, and most recently, the Spanish Architecture Award at the Special Prize of the Ibero-American Biennale, both in 2019. Nomination for the Mies van der Rohe, Borromini, and Swiss Award, as well as 3 participations in the Venice Biennale and monographic exhibition at the Swiss Architecture Museum in Basel, or are other highlights of his career work. It's going to be very long to read all. So, Toni, welcome. It's a pleasure for us to have you in this space. So the microphone and the screen is yours.
Thank you, Javier. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And it's a pleasure for me to stay with your group and with you, to see in the screen, but to stay, no? It's 1 year and a half that we don't meet. It's not possible actually, but I want that this maybe in the future we can meet together early, okay? And I understand that the space that you propose is about the research talks, about the doctoral thesis, no? I want to talk about the thesis, my doctoral thesis, but to link this investigation with the real day by day in the practice of architecture. In this sense, I think that in the axis of my doctoral thesis, the goal of the inhabitate the planet Earth is the real element of the investigation, no? And then I begin to do a reflection about this, from how to habitate the planet Earth, and after we link with the doctoral thesis, and you see, I try to do this in 1 hour, and after the students or you or Joaquin wants to interact, for me is fantastic. Okay, and then if you want, I put the PowerPoint. Okay, you see the screen, Javier? on the students. And this
Yes,
is
perfect.
complete screen, okay? This one, the first diapo.
Okay, go ahead.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank you. Then you read before the theme of the thesis, but in this sense, this title is not exactly, but talks about topographies in time, no, or inhabiting time, no. And I want to begin with this image that is where after you see that is the territory where I developed the doctoral thesis, is this little shelter for fishermen in Cap de Creus Peninsula, and is a geographical place, as you see, with these strong rocks, no, strong wind, and the little shelter that people, the fishermen, works using the ancient rock as a quarry. They take the material from this element. This element protects the north wind. This element, the rock, gives thermal inertia from the climate of the interior space, fresh in summer, hot in winter. The orientation, the principal facade is south, where is the principal sun, and after you have this little beach as a shelter in himself. No? For me, it's a fantastic example of how to habitate the site, and in extension, the different scales. No? The second image, this is the first one, no, that I talk about it. You see the details. No? It's a fantastic place to live in relation with the different natural elements. And the second image is this one that is maybe is antagonic about the architectural conditions. No? Here you excavate, here you add the material that you excavate, and you build a new element, a new body. Here you have this body that is a little building for the farmers in the south of Catalonia, and in front of you have these two big structures of wood planted or built, no? These two big trees as a structure of wood with the facade that is the leaves, caducifolian leaves, 5 meters after the building of bricks. And this intermediate space between the two elements makes an unique architecture, no? Where this element protects the south sun in summer, and the leaves disappear in winter, and you have the sun when you need it. No? This is examples of how to habitate the site. No? And I think at the end, the architecture talks about how to re-habitate the site and the planet. No? That is the real scale of all the site where the human people lives. No? Here you have different climates. Here you have different conditions that it's necessary to read and to know and interpret. Here there is the scale where appears the human people, no? The first hominids, no? 4 million years. And the origin of the Earth is 4,500 millions of years. No? The scale is very different between the when we appear and when is the origin of the Earth. But here at the end, you see this 250 years with the Industrial Revolution that we begin to work with fossil engine, no? And another kind of dynamics that I think it's a wrong direction for us. No? Then in this side there is this another scale. We make a zoom in, no? And you have the coast of the Peninsula Iberian, and in this part here you have the Cap de Creus, is where I do the doctoral thesis. All this peninsula, 10,000 hectares. But we begin the lecture in this red point, no? That is in Tarragona. We go there. This is the Tarragona city port. My university is here in this city that is Reus. This is the Mediterranean Sea, and this is the principal mountains that you have 15 kilometers to the coast. And then here there is all this anthropic situation with agricola grid, like this, no? All these lands that it builds understanding this microclimate element, no? That the seawater evaporates, then you have sweet water, the vapor of this water arrives to the mountain, goes more higher, and then condense, it rains, and then with the gravity force, the water returns to the sea, and human people interprets this resource with this agricola grid, okay? And they interpret it in our 1:1 scale in elements like this infrastructure, no? The water that stops in different points, like in this picture of Joan Miró, surrealist painter, that painted this Mas Miró in Montroig when he was maybe 20 years old, and not 20, no, 27, I think. And here you see these mountains and see the harmony between all the parts, no? The different parts around the topography and the water. This is the image that I showed in the beginning. That is one situation similar like this, but in the reality, not in the picture. And this is the grid that all this water system generates with Agricola program. Okay. During today, in this lecture, we talk about grids, different kinds of grids organizations that human people do in Agricola lands, in urban lands, cities, no, etc. And I want to talk all the time about the analogies between these different kinds of anthropization, not only the urban territory as a unique territory of the architecture. This is the Agricola part. This is the same grid, but when we arrive to the Salou village, that is this one, okay? This point, this is Tarragona and this is Salou, and in this point, in 2007, we win the competition here, where we have all this Agricola grid, but from the south part arrive another force that is this urbanization grid. You know? The laws of the city is a different laws from the laws of the territory. These laws are logical because understand the water system, understand the resources, understand the necessities, but these grids, I think, that understand the economical interest, understand the automatically urbanization with the streets, etc., etc. It's a strong element for to live, I think. No? But the competition is about this corner, no, in this system. But we like to understand this that normally the people build this kind of big buildings from the summer holidays, etc. No, with glass verandas, etc. No, and they do mistakes like this, no, with this inclination of this element. Then the man, the sun is all the day burning the legs, no, and they need this because. But if you put in vertical position, it don't happen, no. And then I ask, from where it comes this inclinated element, or maybe this designed bench in the same situations. But you never can sit here in summer because the people put this tree in the north part, that for us is where it's not the sun. And then in this combination tree and bench, you don't have shadow in summer, no? It's another big mistake, no? But we prefer to understand the site not in these codes, no? We prefer to understand this element in another kind of codes. We like to understand the habitability from these closed cycles about the water and the resources, okay? And then we see to the mountains, we see the lands, we see the different elements that appear as elements that interact with the environment. It's not an abstract polygonal elements is an elements that with our action desmaterializate and is a filter of the natural resources of the air, intermediate space for the people, for interact, etc., etc. And then the two red blocks, we work like this, opening this part, no, turning the corners and opening this part. And in the competition, they want the left model, we propose the right model, no? With these white parts in every plant of the building, that is ground floor plan plus 3 plants. Then we propose this technical element in the middle of every apartment, this patio, and this cross ventilation in the parking lot and in the apartments, no? Then these 10 meters, we propose a little forest of caducifolia and leaf trees like this, because the north wind is the principal wind. And then, as you see in another section, this is the different plants. Here is the facade that you have when arrived. This is in 2009, when we finish the building, and the trees are younger. And this is the section, no? The principal wind from the north refreshed with the trees. Second time that refreshed with this curtain of caducifolia leaves, this vegetal facade. And then this pre-refrigerated air goes from this patio that is like a chimney and is more quickly air. And after, when you open the doors of the windows, this fresh air entry compressed into the apartments. In the left is the south part that you have another kind of shadows. This is the parking lot. After, you see how is the evolution in time of these elements. In the first floor you have this ground floor plan with vegetation. This is in the beginning with the different patios when arrive in the ground floor plan, and people using this plan as a storage. And in the last plan you have the patio with the roof and this little frame, because the air do this natural chimney, and when you open the window, this window or the doors, this fresh air entry and cross all the apartment. This is the little square in front of every 2 apartments. We use the same grid but in different kind of halls on different functions. Veranda, this for the plants when grow, they have this grid, or the big hall in front of the square where you have this point of view. This is the plaza in front of every 2 apartments, the patio, that's the privatation with the room, and it's an easy element that 80 groups of persons can interpret free. This is the south part where you have the 2 elements, shadow or sun. This is the part that we open in the principal steps. This is when we finish the work, and the other lands arrives the crisis of 2008, 2009, and they stop to build. And this is one unique hall where we divide in door, window with an element for a table, 90 centimeters, and window with a little bench of 45 centimeters. This cross ventilation, space for the table, and the corridor door in the middle between these 2 polyvalent elements: living room, dining room, second room, the bathroom in the middle, and the kitchen too. You can turn around all the apartment, and people interpret from their necessities this unique conditions element of habitability, conditions of habitability. Register the people in the first years, what is the furniture that they put, what is the profile of the people that live here, and how they free interpret these conditions that we offer to habitate. The shadow and sun with this element that we prefabricate in atelier, and then we do a prototype in the parking of the building when it's in the process of construction, and then we enter this grid of elements, and after we put the wood to build the shadow, and after this pentagram, people interpret it as their necessities. You see the parabolic anthem, the bicycle, and after you see the transformation of the site. Or maybe the dog and the little house in the shadow. This March month, I think, is the same time than now, taking the sun in the morning, etc. More private people using the last rear bar to put this privatization element. And it's passing the time on different elements, visits of different universities to the different neighbors, that they like to show the houses, how they live, and they send WhatsApps after. This is 1 year ago, 12 years after to people arrive for the first time. You see that put these new elements in the same rear bar to protecting or privatizing the terrace. This lateral caducifolian leaves in summer grows and protects the facade. This is in 2009, 2010, and 10, 11, 12 years after, all this it grows, and we have this situation actually. This is another neighbor that sent me a message normally of how they live and how it is, different moments of the year, etc. And past the time, in the elevator entry is a bicycle, because you have the sea at 3 kilometers of distance, a mountain, a window in front of the elevator, people plant tomatoes in the intermediate space, and these different images that how the life appears during these last 11, 12 years. This is low budget because it's a logical interpretation, and the materials is not expensive materials, and we try to optimize the resources, And then from this grid we go to this another grid, From the Tarragona lands to Barcelona lands, that actually there is a big city, Barcelona city, with the Cerdà and Sánchez, the diagonal, and in this point, this red point in the middle, now I explain a little house that I do 15, 16 years ago, in the limit between Sánchez, Cerdà, and the Gracia barrio. Is this point, This is the big grid of Cerdà, this is the micro scale of Gracia, and in this corner, we need to interpret a pre-existence building where they have the ground floor plan as a parking garden, terrace, and after in the corner you have this specific element that the facade do this movement. We do the rehabilitation of interior building, and then we propose this entry from this garage, garden, and swimming pool in this party wall. This is the infrastructure of iron. These images are from 2006, I think. a little balcony, 45 centimeters, that you entry into the city, the veranda. Then with the different densities of wood, we work with the privatization. More private in the ground floor plan, less private in the last elements, here, near the balcony. See, as a garden with terracotta, with graves, the steps, the zenithal light crossing this little water, this little point of water that you have in the top, the lights into the wall. You turn and you discover this tree of love, árbol del amor, árbol de Judea. And right this point where it is the little water near to the swimming pool. And working as a nature space into the city in the limit between two urbanistic grids, using the balcony as the point of contact between these parts. It's 205, 206, and from this grid we go another city. Here is the city where I born, in Badalona. It's another kind of grid, it's more industrial city. This is the Badalona Basketball Pavilion. It's an Olympic stadium in 1992. Miss Van der Rohe Award, this building from Esteban Bonell. And the plot where we work is this ancient building, and the other orange marks is the party walls, characteristic party walls of this part of the city. This is the ancient industry in this point. Okay, this is the situation in 1940 with agricola lands outside of the city, but actually you have this situation. And here from 1999 to 2003, 22 years ago, I began to design 35 housing elements as a community people. This is the party walls that you have near of the place. This is the normal situation in the limit between the house and the exterior spaces that people here in Badalona use. You have different kinds of veranda on the limit, but always they like to interact with the vegetation. This is the ancient industry where we work. We maintain this body, this big element, but the warehouse we develop and we put a new building. And in this new building, we work with this industrial element that normally you use to do the structural element to build the different holes in a facade, with steel and concrete in the interior. But we work the same element as an architecture where we put crash plants, plants that can live without only with the humidity of the air, strong in winter and strong in summer. And we do the same movement than these people, but we change the final function of this element to work the limit between the different apartments and the city. This is when we develop the building, we maintain the other one, and after arrive these elements that we begin to work in different positions. The tangential vision that you have one scale, and then when you turn appear the real scale of the holes, how interact with the party walls, in these pedestrian places, and you have the city pedestrian street, the pedestrian street into the community, and the intermediate space between the neighbors, private elements and private visions and public visions. We try to combine the section with the different patios, the cross and the longitudinal section, and the 35 plots and the parking lot in the subterranean plant. And this element, different scales from the interior to the exterior. Here you have the Olympic Pavilion. And with the time, the different elements, new elements appears. Here you have the skyline with the city and how everyone lives these different urban horizons, no? The interior spaces. This is in the beginning, but with the years, the people begins to work, the relation with the neighbors, little beaches with water that we have in the top. And the life appears day by day. And then this is a mistake, it's from 1999 to 03, and actually there are maybe photos from 2 years ago, I think, and I think at the end, the pass of the time, it builds habitability, when normally from architecture we fight with the time. I think that we need to flow with the time, no? And from this grid, from this part, we go to Cap de Creus, where I say, no, this peninsula is another kind of grid, no? From 1998 is a natural park, this element, 10,000 hectares, and this is the real object of my doctoral thesis, this 10,000 hectares with this village in yellow that is Cadaqués village. That this is a drawing that normally I do, but this quiet site, no, this quiet sea, normally there's moments that you can have these topographies in time, no? This lighthouse is 20 meters from the level of the sea, no? You see this wave, the scale that has, no? And this is a strong rocks that has this form from the sea and from the strong wind, no? And in this corner of Cap de Creus, that is this occidental corner from Iberian Peninsula, we go to this point, and in the tail, in this point, that is this point, the hole is here, no? This fantastic site. And here you recognize maybe this refuge of this shelter of fishermen that I showed in the beginning, no? This is the condition of this strong site, no? Okay. But in the interior, you have a primitive elements, not in the sea. This is in the limit between the air of the sea. Here you have these big rocks, and you see these holes, no? This hole and this hole is the more primitive elements as from Neolithic people, okay? And they have this vision maybe 5,000 years ago, with the same stones that the fishermen do the other. Or more recently, maybe last 500, 1,000 years ago, they recognize this big rock with this hole, and then we only put the facade, no, and the holes for to enter. But they have the thermal inerties, natural refuges of these people. This element of the doctoral thesis has this topography, natural topography. No? This is the map that they give to the people that visit the natural park, no? As a natural park, different levels of protection. This is the maps that you can use to visit this site, and you see that always you have lines of topography as an inclinated planes. And then in the doctoral thesis, I do this reflection, no? If the society thinks that this is a natural park and has a sea natural park and earth natural park, and then they interpret that the black color is urban constructions in the village of Cadaqués, no? I do this abstraction, no? I say white is natural, black is human constructions, no? But in this point, this is part of the research, that the topography that you have here in the reality is not built as a natural inclinated plane after orogenia alpina. You have all these black lines built from the human people as a platforms to grow vineyards from 17th century. This is a photograph that I do when I was studying second year of architecture after one big fire in 1986. And I discovered the real dimension with this fire of this site and the human intervention with these lines, no? There's no lines where emerge the rocks, and in more detail you have situations like this. But they need to grow the vineyards in every corner of this site. This is from 100 years ago, 900 years ago, 1929. This aerial photographs. You see all this grid as a human intervention to structurate the life in this point. Agricola life in the interior, fishermen and people of the sea in the sea is a fantastic situation in the limit between the parts, no? This is a big gallery. If this is one house, no? This is the big gallery, and there are different balconies, no? In the corners, in the analogy of one house, no? For this plane of topography is not real, no? This plane has the structure of the water, has the different beach that appears from the sedimentation of this water. This is the maps of 17th century from the French people, understanding this big mountain as a limit between this little village and the Rosas Gulf. This is from 80s, where you see the Agricola grids that they understand in this map. This is from 19th century. This is the Agricola constructions to have the animals, etc. They recognize the prairie, they recognize the line of the water. They put in the prairie the wet, no? And then this wet in this horizontal plane, circular plane that they built with the same stones, taking stones from this part and adding in the other part and building this circle, no? With these big stones. Is this element in the top, no? It's a fantastic place. They understand the conditions, how to habitate with the prairies, with the water, etc. Always the same condition in different kinds of massus is the specific name of these Agricola constructions in Cap de Creus. Always they have a prairie, always they have one little line of water. They understand the north wind as a corner, and they open the big holes in the south part, always. And they are in the territory, different points with this kind of construction, with one grid of roads, as a big city of 10,000 hectares, but they only do to interpret the horizontal planes in green color and the lines of life, that is the lines of water, no? These two conditions builds this interpretation. And this is the two antagonical societies, no? Agricola society in the left, that they built from the principal and secondary roads, totally 235 kilometers of roads, working with only stone, dry stone system, and the right side, 60 kilometers of the touristic model, no? The little village now is an important village, 20,000 people in summer. Of Rosas is a city, Port de la Selva, and they say that the white part is natural park, and the unique resource is the tourism. No? There's no local resources. But this structure is there, and this is the object of my research with these important streets, no, of this city, and infrastructure, orchards in the plain zones with water, little constructions that you have here in one grid, that here with this system of different lines you recognize where there are more communities of these shelters, no? That is, in the interior you see before the fisherman shelter, in the interior you have this kind of shelters. You understand this little element with these foundations, that is a pre-existence rock that they interpret it as a foundation. The pizarra stone exfoliate in horizontal direction, and then it's not possible to have humidity from capillarity from the under, from the foundation. You have the unique continuous pavement with this rock. They orientate to the south part. In the north part is under the earth, and you have thermal inertia from where it comes the cold wind in winter. As a lesson of architecture, or this one that they interpret the different kind of rocks that they obtain from the floor. No? This is, you see the datum August 1842. It's built it in dry system with here 1, 2, 3, 4 lintels, and you have one wall of 1.5 meters of length. For this one that you have seeing to the southeast part, sorry, that is where is the rising sun in winter. This little refuge, no, in the entry from 2 people that take the breakfast with the first sun in the winter, and 2 bodies in contact for to be warm, and then entry organic energy with the breakfast and after they use this organic energy for to go to work, to do walls and horizontal plane for to grow the vineyards. No? This is the plant. After we see something more modern with this interpretation of the wind to protect the wind. This is different shelters, always the same conditions, where is a polygon is 45 grades from the north wind to break the wind, and when it's circular is a structural element in circle that is fantastic, and the openings are always from southeast to southwest. Is all the movement of the sun during the day. This is another constructions, but not shelters, is the excedent of material, the material that they don't need. No? You see that there's more material in cada case valley, no? And are these elements that in local name is clopers. Cloper is the material that you don't use after to use the land as a quarry. No, you take the stones from the earth, and after to use it, the stones that you don't use, and it's not necessary to have in the middle of the lands, no, because it's a wrong element for you. They accumulate where they it's not possible to put to grow the land. No, that is where emerge the rocks. They use these rocks as a foundation, and then they accumulate these monolithic elements as a tumulus. Okay, there are 3,600 tumulus in these 10,000 hectares. The combination between this tumulus and the barraca, the other shelter, is this, that you can combine the thermal inercy of the matter under refuge, or this exterior element with this bench, or this element with circular protection to have more temperature. The first one is this one. You have the interior refuge, protected the north wind. Here you have the south sun, and in the exterior part you can stay in sunny days in winter, or in spring or autumn, and in summer normally you stay in the interior part because when there is vineyards here, there's no trees. Or this another that they put only 1 meter and 35 centimeters is the position of the body, because you sit normally or rest in the floor. But the 185, 190 centimeters in the top, they separate these stones of the barraca. They don't put more stones in the new element, and the north wind refrigerate the hot air that in summer you have in the top of the shelter. It's an intelligent system, another lesson of architecture. And the combination of two kinds of buildings in these 10,000 hectares is all these elements. Now you have streets, now you have buildings, and then you have the masus or macias, the big constructions. No? Here you have the dolmens from Neolithic that are in the side. Here you have the medieval constructions in the prairies that we show. Here the shelters, here the clupes, or shelters, barracas, and clupes. No? All these elements, it doesn't exist before this thesis, because they know that they are here, but now I have the different elements recognized and understanding the system. No? In the end of 19th century appears the phylloxera, and then the vineyards dead, no? And then people put olive trees from 89, I think, in the end of 19th century. Orchards, and this is from 1929. The limit, you see how the agricola system arrives to the sea, or the different boats are prepared to go to fish. And this is before to be a touristic village. No? This is the perfect harmony between interior and exterior, no? Between the earth and the water. No? In 1956, this is a big frozen climate, no? And dies the olive trees, but then appeared the first tourism in 50s and changed the model from this agricola and fisherman people to the tourist resource. And this is image from 60s, and this fantastic structure, natural structure that arrives to the sea, begins to the principal street. They do more big, and there arrive more people, and the line of the coast is a real value for these people. Appears the speculation, the immobiliario business, etc. And this black mountain is a natural park, or the natural park, but people only see the water, no? And they forget all these elements that are there waiting. And people are in the line of the bay, no? In the line of the touristic elements, boats, etc. No? And from this image in 60s, I do a reflection, no, to the director of the natural park and the mayor of Cadaqués, no, and the people from doctoral thesis in the University of Barcelona. No. The people from the natural park, they say that this is a biological element that we need to protect. And I do this drawing in 1998 to the director of park when they protect as a natural park in 1998. And I say that sure that here there are a lot of black lines as a superimposed grid adapted to the site, built it from another important animal that is in this peninsula, that is human people, you know? Not only the people. The people of the doctoral thesis, they say that it's not possible that I do a doctoral thesis about one geography. This is from the people that study geography, not from the architects. They say that if I'm an architect, I need to do a doctoral thesis of an urban plan or one city, etc. No? If I want to work with a big scale, I need to fix my view to the cities. And I present this drawing. No? I say that I want to stay in one moment that is previous to the orogeny alpina, where previous that the topography, strong topography appears in this site. The geologist people says that it's a flatly peninsula. No? And I say, okay, if this happens and arrives in this position to actual days, normally a big city of 10,000 hectares stay here last 2,000 years. No? Appears maybe Emporion, maybe Marsella, maybe Barcelona, Barquino, etc. No? And I do the theoretical exercise. No? I put in the same scale, in this case, the city of Barcelona. And this is the coast of Cap de Creus, and this is the coast of Barcelona. I put in different lines to recognize both lines of coast. And I say that to understand these natural protections in this geostrategical point of the Mediterranean Sea appears an important city. And I ask, if here there's an important city like this, and they built only with one unique material and with dry system, it will be a doctoral thesis of architecture. And they say, yes, but this is not the situation. This is a natural part. And I say no. And I present this drawing that in 1998, 1999, I draw it from the principal divisions of agricola system of principal walls, not the totally ones, but I present this drawing to say that I want to study the habitability in this part from human people, from one program that is agricola program, not urban program, but I say I study architecture to work the habitability in all the earth and not unique in the cities. No? And they say, okay, you can study this geography as a part of architecture. I make this zooming in this part of Cadaqués with this division between the properties of the land, and in the white spaces you have the walls with the topography divisions. No? And I do this reflection. If we have this patrimonio as not as a patrimonio as culture or history, it's one patrimonio that we have as a resource. Why one day in 60s, 70s appears the line that divides the urban part from the natural part, that breaks the relation between the mountain and the sea, that breaks the relation between the rainwater, like in the first diapos in Tarragona, that arrives naturally in the sea, and this line breaks this relation. And radically, they say, right side is urban, you can do everything. Left side is protected, natural park, you can do nothing. No? And to do a reflection about this, I say that in another scale, the superimposed grids of Barcelona and Cabo Creus, in the same scale, here have Catalonia Square, or the industrial part of Cadaqués, the ancient parts of both villages in the same scale. You can arrive, here is the lineal meters of wall that you have in the interior grid of the ensanche of Barcelona. But at the end, the conclusion is this: no? One little village in the limit, in the Pre-Pyrenees, between the water and the land, and they need to grow with a new structure of agricola system. And the city with an urban model need to grow with a Cerda ensanche. No? This is the analogy. Two structures with different kinds of problems, but they built both, and they built these two kinds of architecture, two kinds of urba and agricolaism, no? Urbanism, agricolaism, no? But not the urban part is the absolute decision. And I think that the big mistake of 20th century is that the urban model, they apply in the same way in agricola or rural parts, and where they have the previous marks that show you how to habitate this site. And I think that the big mistake of 20th century is to entry with this urban model in different parts of the territory, in different parts of the earth. This is all the village of Cadaqués in all the municipal hectares, no? With all this real structure. And after the doctoral thesis in 2018, I do for the mayor and the people of Cadaqués this territorial structure as another part from complement as an urban structure. No? And I developed these 46 bags from 1, 2, 3, 4, no? To 46. These different bags is the relation between the valleys, the different valleys that you have here. Is the analogy of the city. You have different barrios, no? Different communities where to live. And I entry in different lands of Cadaqués with different names: peripheric south, peripheric north, intermediate south, and central part, no? Of this structure of the agricola system. And this is the elements that lives here, as you see before. Now I have registered an important 100% of these elements with every specific detail of every one of these elements that now exist with the same system, everyone, or the Macias I entry and I develop with people of the studio in this professional work. And I show how we work with the satellite, no? From the photo satellite, and after arrives to the drawing. And then this A3 page in 1/4000 scale, you can have these drawings where you recognize the little barracas or the clubes or the structures for the water. And this is different portions of this general plan, but not from the urban part, from the agricola part. And you have all the barrios developed with this kind of drawings of this construction. And this is one part in the urban situation, no? And this is a real conflict, because in this previous land, with this structure and these resources, appears the business inversion from the tourism with 104 houses and one hotel of 3,000 square meters. No? Here you have this structure, this topography in time. Here you have these 2,300 olive trees and 66 units of oak trees, but appears all this element that grows from here, and this is the new plan with this implementation. You know? But there's one law that in the sites that you have more than 20 or 25% of inclination, it's not possible to do the urbanization. And we review this, and we show that it's possible only to do 60 houses and not 100. You know? And we demonstrate that it's better to this 60 house and not 100 to do in the model like this, not in the urbanistic plan that they approved this volumetric element with ceramic tiles in the inclinated plane. We propose to integrate with the shadows, with central patios, ventilation, thermal inertia, and to live into the olive or the vineyard trees. and with less density. This is the line, this is the big element that they propose, this new urbanization here, and then the water, the depuration, a lot of people, etc., etc., is a reflection about this pink mark, no, and how this limit between the two parts we need to interpret it as another direction, no. If we were in 60s of last century and we have this situation, and if in 60s we have the conscience that we have now with the territory and the relation between the parts, not the absolutism of the urbanistic planifications, no? I think that we can do another kind of Cadaqués last 40, 50, 60 years ago, no? This is the ancient road that goes from Cadaqués to Port de la Selva. Here you know all the structure that I show with the doctoral thesis and the agricultural system plan for the town hall, no? This is the mark of these 100 houses, no? More higher than the church, no? As another village there, no? And I think that they don't have limit in this sense. It's not conscious when they draw this urbanization, the possibility, no? Because this is the structure that you have in this territory. And if you hear this structure as an architect, as a planner, or as agricultural people, or day-by-day people, how to habitate the territory is better for human people, no? To understand the logical of the four natural elements, to close cycle materials, and to understand the resources of the biosphere, no? And to finish, I show you two little exercises of two houses. One new house that I do here from 2009 to 2012, and another house that is this white element from 1957 that I finished now after 4 years to do a reinterpretation, a new property, and it's an historical house that after I explain to you. And I think that this micro scale of these houses is in the same way of the geographical or territorial scale of the doctoral thesis, or how we can think the cities. This is 60s. You see the agricultural grid arrive to the line of the coast, to the sea. This is the land where I need to work, and this is the other house that after I show you. And this image is from 5 years ago. Okay, it's the urbanistic model, and I think that's out of scale. You know? This is the previous construction that I have, where now I'm going to build. This is 100 years ago. This one drawing that I do in the beginning, and then it's when I arrive by boat to the site to see the land that is here in the corner, you know, in this point, in 2009. This is the previous structure that I recognize, that people from the olive trees built, no, or from the vineyards. The dominant wind, the movement of the sun, the distance between the different terraces, 5 meters, 4.5, size that are good from one house. No? After we take all the superficial vegetation to recognize this construction or this diagonal that you can go from the less the point that you have in the base of the land are in the top 10 meters more. We recognize all these elements, and we built the first building, no? That is this agricultural structure. And after we try to understand how to habitate this site with one house, or how to habitate this olive trees land. No? Here you have this diagonal, recognize it. You have the previous trees that we have here. Here is a big hole in the top. Is where we situate the first schemes of the house. In section, we put the house more near the earth, and we have more thermal inertia because we want the view of the sea between the floor and the branches of the trees, not after the leaves of the trees, because the tree every time is more big, and if you put between the floor and the branches, the time is in the good direction, no? And you are in scale into the olive trees, etc., etc. And this is the second model. We have the conscience of the first construction, and the second one, the principal lines of the structure is the same direction of the principal lines of the topography of the land, no? And then you can do this excavation with the rock, the north wind entry from these holes, and the southwest wind, Garbi wind, the other dominant wind, entry from this direction, no? And the house always see in the direction of the ancient olive trees. In the second floor, the rooms, and in the ground floor plan, these parking lots, etc. And this section in green color is what we do, more under the earth, and the other is the maximum height that we can do if we want to go in the other direction, no? This is the relation with the sea, from here to here. This is the other beach in front of, after we see the other exercise here in this land. This is the house, and the piers finished. Previous drawings from 2009. And we take all the stones of the walls, we do the new topography, we enter the new topography, and after we enter another time the walls in the direction of the house. Rock entry with thermal inertia in the interior of the rooms, different kinds of pavements. We discovered this rock during the process to build, and after we put into the house. The other rock in another room is this one. Top, there is the rooms. And we cross the house, and we cross the olive trees land. The west part we protect from the sunny afternoon in the summer with this gallery. And the last wall entry in the principal room in this form. We see the horizon of the sea between the floor and the first branches of the olive trees. And at the end is a structure as a different fishermen's houses added, you know, like the Lee house in Portugal, no? That there's no architect, there's only common sense and to understand how you can habitate with these constants of habitability, no? Sun, wind, climate, topography, rock, geology, etc. No? The walls cross the house, and the diagonals view by night in this direction and by day in the direction of the olive trees lands. That is the real facade of the house, what you see from the interior, not in the other sense. And then as a geographical element, if it blows the north wind, you can protect in these little beaches here, like in the Cap de Creus peninsula, or you have these little bays, you know. It depends the wind of the day, if you have sunny day or not. And there's the analogy with how you go with one boat in this big house of 10,000 hectares. And the other one is in front of, is in this point, not here, in this geographical element, no, that is here. This another little peninsula is this element in 1957. This is actually, you see the pines are more big. Here is 60 years ago, this beach. And this is this modern house from the architect Barba Corsini, 1957, as a sacred temple, no, in the top of the mountain, only the sky. There's a pavilion, no, a modern pavilion with platform, etc. No, they do these drawings, principal winds. After you see the analogy, no, that protect, and from this point you can see the horizon or the village of Caracas. This is during the last 20 years. Another property changed things of the house, put these elements of the glasses in white color, change this pavement, put this element, etc. We do the reform in 1917, 2017 to 18. From this position we pass to this, we change, etc. This is one of the elements that we do, but the condition from 57 to 17 is the scale of the site, it changed. Now we have the real plot of the site, not only the house. This is 2,500 square meters with the ancient parking element that now we built a house under this roof. We discovered this rock that is under the earth. We put a little point of water, a circular element, a little swimming pool, and we work the limits. We add here a new storehouse under the terrace, etc., etc. From these conditions, we pass from here, and this is after we're all work. And this is 60 years ago. This is 5-6 years ago, and this is 3 years ago. And after we clean the vegetation, etc. This is the interior reform. This is previous, this reform, how we look. This is 57, and this is after our work. They put this pavement, and we change from the original another time. They have like this. Here we put a new room and open and build this terrace with the same pavement in the interior. The possibility to open in summer with the view of the horizon as a shelter. In this way and not in this way. Okay, you can open all this glass. In winter where it's closed, you have all the horizon free. And these three elements you put here, like this, and this one you can put here. This is zenithal light in the new bathroom. This is in the roof. Here there are the depositors 60 years ago, but now there's another system, and we reuse this structure to have a protected element from the north wind, and to see the same position of the house, but 3 or 4 meters more higher. And here you have the roof of the pines, the new pines, but it doesn't exist 60 years ago. We did this space for the afternoons to stay here quietly. And here is where we put a new swimming pool. We discover this rock, we take the earth, we show a piece of Cap de Creus into your land. Here appears the little swimming pool. We put a vertical stone like in Mas de la Llobatera, where you see the site for the animals, circular element, because it's better to build a circular element, and you are more near from the rock geometry and the pine geometry and not the platform. No, we want to be nature with this natural beach, and we don't want to be platform in this sense. No? There are different reference with the natural elements, rock, pines, etc. No? You have this possibility after to come to the sea, to enter with sweet water here, and to sit in little bench that you have in the interior, but never you see this water from the big platform of the house. It's an intermediate site where you have this little beach, private beach into your land with this little piece of water. And you don't see from the top. The new little storehouse under, and you have a more biggest terrace now. They can put table here and see the church from this point and this point too, like 60 years ago, but you have these new positions. We open the ancient window, this terrace from this room. This is the new room that you see before. And in this point, we transform the parking lot in new house. We work the roof with this water that entry from the sea as a visual element. You know? And this is the new scale of the site. You know? Within 2 days or 3 days, we inaugurate an exhibition about the process of these 4 or 5 years, last 4 or 5 years of this house. But at the end, in this point, we have conditions, and people that works good habitability interprets these conditions. This non-architect with this shelter, Barba Corsini with this another shelter, and at the end, I think that there is different datums in different scales, 1/1 scale of human necessities, but geographical scale of human necessities, territorial scale of human necessities, and we working always in this zoom in, zoom out from satellite scale to 1/1 scale of the position, and we can habitate in the understanding the conditions of every territory, flatly, with agricultural system, more palaphytic like these trees, no? Or more topographical or excavation with the rockets at the end of Pyrenees, if this big rock of 10,000 hectares that is a big city, agricola and fisherman city, with elements like this, from 1/1 scale to satellite scale. And at the end, the investigation is that the different human activities activate different kinds of anthropizations. You know? The different grids that you see here, if you don't have prejudices that the architects only work in the city, only do buildings, only do skyscrapers, no? It's possible to interact another time with the natural elements, to close cycle materials, and to close cycle conditions of the different elements of the biosphere. This is the real thesis at the end. Okay, and the peninsula of Cap de Creus at the end is only the object for to explain this thesis in this geometrical and circular element of 10,000 hectares. Thank you very much. Desconecto. Vale.
Okay. Okay, Tony, was really, I didn't know these houses. Well, Wonderful houses. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And well, there were so many topics in your presentation, but let the people, the students, or to ask you some questions if they want to. If anybody wants to do a question or just to do comments about this presentation, it is open now.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very impressive to see your approach to territory, landscape, and the material in different scales. What I find also very interesting is like how you were following over the years, how you were aware how people are using the houses, how are their little interpretations over the years. I want to ask if it is just a curiosity or it is like because it would be a key for you to make future interpretations.
No, there are different scales. The last house is a unifamiliar house, and these datums that I have where I begin to do the work, that I need to understand how it was the house in 1957. The house that I received is this white carpenter's house, no, with another conditions. They change the pattern, etc. And for this, you see the previous images. And in the first one of the exercises in Salou housing, this 80 housing, is a social housing that I have to 10 minutes of my university. And when I finish in 2009, I want to understand if with this unique model that I want to apply as a designer, global conditions to adapt free their necessities. After I want to register home, maybe in 6, 7, 8 apartments, they appropriate as they weigh. You know? For me, is a lesson for me. And it's a comproration if the conditions that we offer from the studio is good for them, or they need to change, no? And it's a necessity not for to learn, but it's only for to look if what we think it happens or it happens and other things different. No? It's curiosity. No? And I think it's a process of the part of the process of the investigation.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you to you, Sarah.
Is there another one?
Good afternoon.
Hello, Justin.
Okay.
I just want to thank you a lot because it was very pleasant to listen to this lecture, and I think it's a wonderful research that you have done regarding those structures. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah. Giovanova, Violeta.
Yes.
Pide algo, ¿no? O no sé, igual había puesto una mano.
I don't know. Violeta, do you want?
Yes. No.
To...
No. I didn't raise a hand, but thank you. It was a really impressive lecture.
Okay. Well, if there is no more questions, we're going to thanks again, Toni, because we have now 1 more hour of lesson. So, Toni, thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. Congratulations, and I hope to see you soon, my friend.
I hope to.
And
Javier.
Okay.
Muchas ganas.
Ok, muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias. Saludos, saludos.
Gracias a vosotros y mucha suerte con todo.
Ok, un abrazo grande, ¿eh?
Venga, igualmente. Pronto.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Well, I don't know if we can take 5 minutes and we can go to the other channel to have the rest of the class. Okay?
Okay, goodbye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.